those questions will be transmitted magically through the magic of modern data processing to the judging panel. And if there's time at the end of the judges' question and answer session, one of the judges will read those questions. What's interesting is if somebody else has asked a question that you think is a good one, you can say, I like that question, and the questions move up and they get more votes. So the judges will know which questions, if there are a handful of them, that the overall audience, more of the audience was interested in. So that's kind of cool. Everybody who's here, including all the team members who are presenting, at the point of registration was entered into a raffle to win a Kindle Fire. It's been donated by the Holiday Inn, right across the street. Our competitor, but you'll have to be present at the awards ceremony to win the Kindle Fire. We will not mail it to somebody. So make sure that there's a little double ticket. Put your ticket in the jar outside. The ticket, I believe, is in the back of your little badge folder. And you'll be in the drawing. And if you're there at 4 o'clock to hear who wins and to enjoy some refreshments with us, you may be the proud new owner of a Kindle Fire. Finally, and I'll mention this several times as we go on, at the end of the day, would you please recycle your name badge? It seems like a small thing, but it's a big thing. It's a little petroleum we don't have to use up later. And they aren't free. So we'll have a box outside and just toss your badge in the box when you're finished with it. Moving ahead, I would like to introduce a couple of people who are going to talk to us about new initiatives here at Virginia Tech in the entrepreneurship space. And to kick that off, I'd like you to welcome, and we'll be working on getting her presentation queued up here, Sherry Walker, who is director of NewSpark, a brand new facility over in North End Complex. And Sherry's going to tell you all about NewSpark.
Good morning.
Good morning.
NewSpark, as Jim mentioned, actually is...
Sherry, you better use the mic.
Oh, sorry.
I'm one of those people with a soft voice, and so otherwise I'd be screaming at you. No, I'm okay. I'll just stand here. I'll hold on to the podium to make me stand in one spot. I usually wander around, so. NewSpark is actually in itself a new venture. We opened about 2.5 months ago, so in 2 weeks we'll be 90 days old, if you will. And so thank you to Jim and Dick and the rest of the KnowledgeWorks group for letting us speak about it. It actually is a place where any of you could come between noon and 9 p.m. and work on a new venture. We have 2 different types of people that work in the space. One are teams that have applied for access, and we have an application process, and we have criteria for admitting teams. For instance, one of those criteria has to be a scalable technology, rather than I'm going to open a one-stop bakery. We want something scalable. But teams get 24/7 keycard access to the space. If you're not a team, you can come in and work in the space again from noon to 9 p.m. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to provide a space and some programming where people can build new businesses and test their ideas. So you might have a great idea for a new business, or you think you have a great idea, but who's really your customer? Many times people will find out that who they think their customer is originally really is not the customer. Or maybe it is the customer, but there's just not enough value there. You have to have value in order to be able to cover overhead costs and expenses, etc. So maybe there's not enough value there to make a worthwhile business, to make it profitable. So at NewSpark, we're trying to help individuals and teams try to figure that out. We use a program called the Lean Launchpad. Some of you may be aware of that from places like Udacity, you can even do it online. We also are working with a program called Innovation Corps, which is part of the National Science Foundation's tech transfer process. And we are putting some of our teams through that programming to help them try to figure out, do I have a good idea, and validate that and make sure it's something that will work. Here's our official mission. I put that up even though I've spoken about it already, but some people I know are more visual than auditory or learning. So we're trying to help individuals and teams get customer feedback to validate their ideas and help them get to a minimum viable product that then they can take forward. We currently have 9 teams, hopefully businesses, in our space. You don't see logos for 9 different companies here right now because not all of the teams are officially legal companies. They don't have legal structure yet. Some of them don't even have logos yet, which is why you don't see all that here. But we have software, we have web-based services. We also have some hardware. Many of you might be aware of a greeting card company called Cardile. We have someone working on ceramic razor blades. We have someone working, or a team working on toys and trying to create a toy company. So we have a mix of more tangible products as well as virtual service products as well. This is really more of an office space. We do not currently have a maker space. In our New Spark organization, that may be something in the future. I know, at least on the Virginia Tech campus, there are other maker spaces available, and there's a new company that has started in the CRC, same building as KnowledgeWorks sits in, called Hacksburg, and they're trying to provide a community maker space. So in that regard, New Spark is community. It's not just Virginia Tech, it's not just faculty, it's not just students. Anybody can access the space. These are some of our partners, and you'll see a lot of familiar logos here from the Virginia Tech Foundation and VT KnowledgeWorks. The Innovation Network you may or may not be aware of. That is an initiative throughout the Roanoke Valley and the New River Valley to create an innovation ecosystem and fill the gaps. And so we feel like New Spark is another one of those organizations that helps to fill the gaps. And finally, again, I know most people are more visual. This is the physical space. So if you're like, well, where is it? It's on Turner Street. If you know, anybody know where the next door bake shop is? If you don't, you need to find the next door bake shop, okay? Great lunches and really good baked goods, as well as coffee. But we are in the bottom level. You can see the area that's lit up. There's some stairs. If you go past the next door bake shop, on the outside, we're down there, so you can easily find us. Thank you, Jim and Dick, for the opportunity to present. And if there's any quick questions, I'm happy to answer one or two. Go ahead.
What's the building access? How that work?
Well, the team, the people that have been accepted to work in there 24/7 actually have a key card. And that is actually a Virginia Tech key card, but community members can get access to. For instance, I have a student on a team who is a Radford University student, did not have a Hokie passport, and so he had to get one. And I can give authorization for someone that's not a VT faculty or student to get a passport. If you're not on a project where you need 24/7 access and you just want to come in, then access is just to come to the door. And again, it's noon to 9 p.m. You're welcome. Thank you.
If you want to drop in, I know Sherry will let you in. It's a great place to visit. Our next speaker, Mark Junkins, faculty member at the Pamplin College of Business and the faculty director of a program called Innovate, and he's going to tell you all about that.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks, Jim and Dick and KnowledgeWorks for giving us a few minutes as well to talk about Innovate. As you probably all know, there's quite a number of new additions to the entrepreneurial ecosystem and landscape here, and Innovate is another one of those in addition to NewSpark. Innovate's about 8 months old. Some of you have heard about it. Many of you in the room have actually been to Innovate and presented to the students who live there. Innovate is a living learning community. One of the things that Tech has been doing for quite a while, and in particular in more recent years, is developing more living learning communities for the students that reside on campus. What many of you know is that we had an opportunity with a vacated fraternity house to use that space as a living learning community. So Innovate was designed and envisioned initially by the Division of Student Affairs at Virginia Tech and the Resident Life group there to create a space, living learning community where new incoming students could come in as mostly freshmen and have a shared interest in entrepreneurship across all majors. So Innovate was born with that idea. What we found in teaching entrepreneurship students at Pamplin is that many catch fire in entrepreneurship later in their entrepreneurial careers, as juniors, as seniors, and so forth. But some outstanding entrepreneurs in this community, some that we know, like Nathan Laka, Caroline Pugh, got involved in entrepreneurship very early in their college careers and caught fire and are now successful entrepreneurs in the community building their businesses. So part of the design behind Innovate was to get students involved in entrepreneurship earlier in their college career. Now, Innovate in this particular location is envisioned as a 2-year pilot program. So in August, we brought in 35 new incoming students. I think 33 of those were freshmen, 2 were transfer students, so it's open to also transfer students. And they came in to the house from all majors. I believe almost all, if not all, colleges were represented. So we had 35 new students move in August, so 8 months from now, here we are. There's been a lot of press in the community. This is innovated in their own words from some of the students. As you can see, some of the comments they've made of what the experience is about. But essentially, in the first semester of Innovate, we had a course, an Introduction to Entrepreneurship course that was actually taught in the house 2 nights a week. And most of those course interactions were real people coming into the house to talk to the students about real-life entrepreneurship. Jim was in the house, Jen was in the house, various other entrepreneurs from the community came to the house to talk about their career in entrepreneurship, whether they're a service provider, for instance, an IP attorney, or other service providers from the community, BT KnowledgeWorks, and so forth. But also had a lot of panels of entrepreneurs coming in and talking to the students. A large part of the objective there was just get these students feeling confident about networking, for example. Remember, these are mostly freshmen, so getting networked in the community, getting confident and comfortable with their own networking, starting to cultivate their own entrepreneurial ideas, ideation, and so forth. So the other part of the course was to introduce content to the students. So typically on a Monday night, we had some content delivery on ideation, entrepreneurship, strategy, marketing, finance, these sort of basic fundamentals. And then typically on Wednesday nights, we'd have entrepreneurs from the community coming in and meeting with the students. Here, as it mentions from Cody, there's other kinds of majors in the house, a lot of business students, but we also have engineers, computer science, we have an architecture student in the house, and so forth. So one of the very first things they did, Housing and Res Life had to design a logo for them, and almost immediately you put 35 aspiring entrepreneurs in the house and they just start doing stuff. They just spontaneously decided, let's redesign our logo. We don't like what Res Life gave us, so we're gonna create our own logo. So they did that right away from the get-go, which was exciting. We immediately started hosting events with other entrepreneurial collaborative parties around campus, such as the E-Club. So we had an opening event with the E-Club in the house. That helped immediately get the new students, the new freshmen, connected to the entrepreneurial students on campus. Something that many of my juniors and seniors in the class often didn't have. One year I remember having a junior in my course, and he just started getting excited about entrepreneurship. He actually became the E-Club president for a semester a year later, but he was already a senior and didn't have that much time to cultivate his entrepreneurship ideas. So a huge part of what Innovate is about is getting new, early students, the minute they walk onto campus, connected to the network, connected to entrepreneurs, and thinking about entrepreneurship right away. Here we've got just a couple images from the house. Bob Summers, Cameretti came in the house. There's one shot of them just interacting with the students after class, after having presented on what it takes to form a company, how do you finance a young company, and so forth. Then the students started spontaneously creating their own events. They would pull a huge group together and take out one of the restaurants on campus, and about 40 people fill this restaurant on campus, and they invited other people from the entrepreneurial community to join them, entrepreneurs, professors, and so forth. So it's been exciting. And an example of one of the activities the students created was, on their own, one student in the house just decided to contact Ted Leonsis, a billionaire entrepreneur who owns the Verizon Center and the Wizards, the Capitals up in Washington, D.C. He just said, he met someone in the organization. He said, I want to invite Ted down to Innovate and meet with us. And he got in a dialogue with them over a couple of months. He was able to arrange a trip up to D.C. where Ted, the first billionaire that they'd all met, got to give them a talk in the Georgetown locker room, and then took them to a basketball game, invited them to a hockey game the next night into a private suite, and also they got a behind-the-scenes tour of Verizon Center. And the feedback I got from these students from that trip was just how invaluable it was to hear from an entrepreneur that's so successful, to get to go on their own and do these kinds of things of their own making, and really building the confidence again on networking, ideation, talking to entrepreneurs, thinking about what entrepreneurship means to them, and laying kind of the foundation for them for the rest of their college career to continue building their concepts. Because this was a startup, really, the students themselves had to do a lot of work on creating the internal governance of the house. At the beginning, there was no history, there was no tradition, there was no governance set for them, so the students themselves developed kind of a corporate board structure with VPs and so forth the first semester. They've re-envisioned that to a leadership council this semester, so we have a leadership council of 7 students in the house that help to coordinate, manage, and organize the activities and bring in the events and so forth. One of the very interesting outcomes of Innovate so far, just in the first several months, was to identify an underrepresentation of student women in entrepreneurship in Virginia Tech. Through some of the institutions that we have on campus focused on entrepreneurship, there's really an underrepresentation of women. And that's something that we identified, that the students themselves identified. We do have 1/3 of the house as women, which was exciting and a great result in this first year. But they identified that there were differences in what they were trying to achieve in their entrepreneurial experience that weren't necessarily happening at the extent on campus that they were hoping for. And so they've taken on their own to start initiating some women in entrepreneurship activities, some events. There's a big event coming up that's being planned for May 1st. They had a major event last semester where they brought many women entrepreneurs together, brought them to the house, gave them an opportunity to speak to these young freshman women as well. So that's something very exciting. There's a plan to scale up, Innovate in the future. As I said, this was a 2-year pilot program. We're in our first year now. Next year will be our second year of the pilot program. We'll bring in another round of students. Some number of the current students will remain in the house for a second year, and others will leave and allow space for new incoming students. So if you know any incoming freshmen that are entrepreneurial, that are coming to Tech next year, they can apply to Innovate and get into the house. It's an exciting opportunity for them. Probably in the 3rd or 4th year, when we have to transition out of the house, because the owners of the house will end up moving back in at some point, we'll probably move on to another part of campus in a newly renovated facility and take up a larger space and try to expand the program beyond this pilot stage. So far so good. A lot of new ideas being created in the house, some businesses being started already, some having already generated some revenue, and others ideating through their first or second concepts. And again, these are mostly freshmen. So what's going to be very exciting is to look in 2-3 years and see where they are, or 4 or 5 years, and see what kinds of businesses have been developed by these young, bright, entrepreneurial students. So I want to keep on track, so I don't know if we have any chance for questions or not, but maybe we have time for a couple questions if anybody has any questions about innovating.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you look for in the incoming students that make it, that's not a very big group of students relative to the incoming class size. So how do you decide?
Yeah, I mean, it's largely, first of all, there's the self-selection of the students identifying themselves as entrepreneurial. So they do write-ups about what they think entrepreneurship means, why they would like to be in Innovate, what some of their background is on leadership and entrepreneurial activity. It's pretty amazing how much some of these students have already done in high school. Many of them having already started their own small businesses or done other entrepreneurial activities. A lot of leadership, a lot of club presidents, presidents of their sporting teams, presidents of their high school. So those are the kind of qualities we're looking at. But we're looking for a diverse group as well. And some people, young students are all over the map in their evolution and maturity about what they think entrepreneurship means and what they want in their life, and they change rapidly during their first year, I'm finding as well. So students don't necessarily know, but you can see if they've got the interest and they go through the effort and the application process, then we're looking at those applications and trying to identify who really adds something to the house, and we let their own words speak for themselves, and we ask them those questions. And it's not easy, but the first year was fairly straightforward because it was a startup, and we really had very little time to get the word out. So the whole process happened very quickly, and so in a way that made it a little bit easier because we got all the applications sorted at one time and could kind of compare against each other. This year they'll probably come in more spaced out over time, and so we'll have to really think about that. But we were fortunate to have a great mix this first year. Great diverse mix of majors, men, women, all kinds of backgrounds. So that was very helpful. It's helpful to mix computer science with architecture, with business, with biology. We have all that in the house, which helps. Okay, great. Thank you very much for the time.
Mark brings up an interesting point about they had to self-identify. You can't walk down the street and say, that person looks like an entrepreneur, I think I'll drag him into the house. And that's true of all the organizations, NewSpark, Innovate, VT KnowledgeWorks, and any other place that's got entrepreneurship hanging around its neck. Please send your friends who think they might be entrepreneurial to any one of them. All of the various organizations that support entrepreneurship in the region will figure out for them where they actually ought to land. If it's a student, we would send them to Innovate. If it's somebody off the street in Blacksburg who wants to do something that is in the new Spark sort of thing that's scalable and so on and so forth, we might say, hey, you ought to go over and knock on that door. Or somebody maybe should enter VT KnowledgeWorks door or the Corporate Research Center door. The joke I like to tell at the end of the presentations I do is there are two things you have to remember. One is don't let your friends drive drunk. And the second is don't let them start a company without getting good advice. So moving ahead here, I'm going to introduce my good buddy and colleague Dick Dougherty, who's going to tell you all about the Tech Transfer Challenge, which is the first half of today's program. It was Dick's brainchild a couple years back, and we're excited to continue the tradition now. Richard?
It's nice to know I had a brainchild. Good morning, everyone. As Jim said, maybe it's my brainchild, but I just have to live with all the problems associated with children. Just to remember what we're trying to do, there have been some great inventions in the past. We're all using them. Very scalable. Where's Sherry? Maybe she's like to. This morning, as Jim mentioned, we're going to have 4 teams present in the Tech Transfer Challenge. This challenge was created about 2 years ago. Its purpose is to accelerate innovation technology transfer, in other words, technology transfer from Virginia Tech to the private sector. Obviously, it is oriented towards faculty, students, and staff taking their ideas and moving them into the private sector. And you'll see some interesting cases of that this morning. Just so that we don't forget, although it's in the booklet as well, major sponsor for this is obviously the Office of Research here, but it's also, this prize is also supported by the Office of Outreach and International Affairs, Hamlin College of Business, and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. These ideas are supposed to be coming out of the technology. The teams are supposed to have spent their time developing the technology. So we are not going to see business plan presentations from them. What we're going to see is what they think the commercial potential is, and focusing on one area, what the opportunity is in that one area for that technology. We want to understand how the IP, the intellectual property, is protected or can be, and then move into where have they gotten to today and where could they get over the next 2 years, because the prize is help from BT KnowledgeWorks over that 2-year period. I'd like to thank the judges that are here today, John Oliver, Ava Doss, Tom Pecorello, Jason Gabriel, and Kami Rosman. Some of these have been very helpful in the past, being judges, and so we have some guidance from previous sessions as well as some new people involved, and looking forward to their results this morning. Jim mentioned that there will be, let me go back a little. The presenters will have 12 minutes to present. I have a copy of their slides, so if they're on the last slide and 12 minutes occurs, I may not bother them. But if they're halfway through their slides at 12 minutes, I will stand up, and at 13 minutes, I will come up and take the microphone away from them. At that point, Q&A from the judges. When we run out of questions from the judges, there is one judge who is taking the questions from the audience that have been sent through Questful and will raise those questions in the time allotted. We allow about 10 minutes for questions. So that's how we're going to handle that. All right, with that in mind then, I would like to introduce the first team. It is Pheno, right? Skip. Pheno Chip. Presenters, Elliot McAllister will present with the other members of the team, Rafael Davalos and Stephen Turner. Elliot, are you ready? Oh, there you are. Sorry.
I don't have extra people here today, so yeah, just the one. Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Elliot McAllister, and I'm representing Pheno Chip Technologies here for the Tech Transfer Challenge. Dr. Davalos is an associate professor over in the Biomedical Engineering School, and I've been working with their lab for a little bit of time on this project. Stephen Turner is going to be helping us out with some of our Latin business acumen, because we're a bunch of engineers. So Pheno Chip is a phenotype-based cell hierarchy and isolation platform. What we're interested in is taking rare cells from mixed biological fluids and separating them for a viable population for downstream culturing or testing, or perhaps drug profiling. Specifically, our first product, we're interested in circulating tumor cells. Circulating tumor cells are the ones that are shed off the primary tumor. If you go in and you have cancer, they travel downstream in the blood, and a portion of that population can become an actual tumor. Those are called TICs, tumor-initiating cells, or the other name for them is cancer stem cells. These are the really bad guys. Out of 1 milliliter of blood that you have in your body, about 1 billion cells are red blood cells. About 1 million cells are white blood cells. It says 10 to the 9th, that's 9 zeros, 10 to the 6th, 6 zeros. And you're looking for, we're trying to separate out 10 CTCs out of that 1 milliliter. So that's a pretty hard thing to do. We're interested in the CTC and the TICs because cancer metastasis, the bad types of cancer where you go in, you get the surgery to have your tumor taken out, you go in and follow up radiation. These are the ones that actually, the tumor is already spread in your body, type 2 or stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 cancers. These are responsible for 90% of the deaths worldwide. And the CTC count, when you go in and if you get a blood count, as you might have heard of Veridex from Johnson & Johnson, can act as immediate prognostic for your treatment. Are you doing well? Is the medicine working? Right now, you can't use those to say, okay, I'm going to change the drug to this, or your cancer is treatable by this drug, it's a better regimen for you. But in the future, therapeutics can be developed in this population. So, I've already mentioned one company. There's about 55 worldwide that are working on CTCs that are already in the public market. So why would you be interested in phenotype? There's no clear winners. Most of these other companies are using an antigen-based labeling process for either fluorescence or magnetic separation or filtration. So these other companies, they're all using similar technology to one another and trying to compete for the market spot, but nobody's actually found sort of the golden key to all this. We think we have. So this is, I'm going to show you right here a video that was just taken recently in one of our microfluidic chips. This is a PDMS, which is a polymer background. These circles are actually pillars that are sticking up, so you're looking down as the cells are going across. And you're going to see green cells and orange cells, and I'm going to tell you that they're both cancer cells. Okay, they're diploid and tetraploid cells, which means that they have a regular number of chromosomes and double number of chromosomes. So these are already known cancer cells. But there's a difference between them, and we can separate that out, even just between cancer cells in a mixed population. What we do is we apply an electric voltage across this, and the pillars act to create and distort the field as it goes across. So what you'll see is the cells are going to get trapped in a second here as we turn the voltage on. As you can see in the bottom. Now, it looks like some of them are going by, but actually this is about 1% of our device. So there's a huge amount of upstream and downstream from this. So you can see when we turned the voltage off, there was a lot of green cells that were trapped above, and they moved down once it's separated out. So we can trap the cells on the chip, allow other cells that we're not interested in to flow off, turn the valve off, turn a different valve on, and flow out only the cells that we're interested in capturing to culture them. So how does this work? It's the motion of a particle, dielectric pressure, the motion of a particle due to polarization in a non-uniform electric field. So we apply voltage across the barrier here. This is a different style chip. This is our channel with a small constriction. And we have an electrode here and an electrode here. And when we don't have the voltage on, you can see these are the blue cells. They're just coming through the constriction and moving from left to right across the screen here. Here is our sort of eye line that we take our statistics off of. And you can see that they're spread about halfway across the channel. There's no real motion of them or collection of them. When we turn the voltage on to develop a positive DEP force, making them attracted to the top layer or moving them across streamlines in a laminar flow, we can collect nearly 100% of them right up within this first distance here. This is about 500 microns across here, and this is about 100. So what's interesting is cells, by their intrinsic nature, by their surface and internal structures, they behave all identically if they're from the same phenotype. One of the studies that we conducted out in Colorado at UC Boulder, and we took some cells from patients that had prostate cancer, and we were able to separate out their malignant versus their benign cell lines here. And you can see that there's a difference between all of them. Now, they might not all be in the same range, but there's a significant trend, and these are direct from patients. So we were able to separate direct from the patient those cancer cells that were malignant. And this is independently reviewed by pathologists outside of our team. So the case study for us, when you go in to get cancer therapy, you go in to get chemo, the doctor says, we're going to go in, we're going to surgically remove your tumor, and then you're going to go through radiation, and then you're going to go through chemotherapy. It's one of the bad ones. I'm sorry. So you go in, you get your surgery, you get your radiation, and you start taking your chemotherapy. But the problem is that chemotherapy, the way that those drugs work, is they attack cells that replicate or divide very quickly. And the TICs and the CTCs don't divide as rapidly as these other cells, so they're unaffected by many of these drugs. So your tumor shrinks, and you think you're in remission, but then you go back 6 months later or a year later, and you find out you've got another tumor growing, different area. And what's happened is that tumor-initiating cell, or some of those cells from that primary tumor that either existed in the outer lying area of where you've had surgery or had already implanted itself, has started to grow a tumor, and now that tumor is resistant to protocol A that your doctor was using. So he tries protocol B, and the same result, and protocol C, and the same result. Protocol D, turns out it works, but it's too late, and the patient will not survive another round of chemo for it. If you had known previously that protocol B was the right one to use, the patient could have been cured initially. So what we want to do is exactly that. We want to take CDEP and electrically bin these cells on the chip, electrically separate them based on their phenotype to say 4 or 5 different areas, different wells on the chip. Take them, culture them, and test their drug resistance. Then find out which is the right therapy and which is the right regimen to use. Put that back into the mix there and end the cycle. We want to determine the optimal regimen for the cure. So the need. The current methods, as was mentioned before, there's 3 basic methods. They're using an antigen-based recognition and binding for either what they do is a negative separation. They pull off cells that they're not interested in first, and then they try and fix the cells that they're interested in, and then they'll stain them. And then they'll look at FACS, which is a fluorescent-based counter based on how much light intensity is coming off those cells. They'll do a filtration method where they separate out every other cell because cancer cells are slightly different size and flexibility based on leukocytes, the white blood cells, which are the closest size relatives. But all these stress the cells. The cells are not the same afterwards. If you ask any biologist, after you stain something or after you magnetically attach it to a bead and you separate off those cells and you go in and you cleave off the magnetic bead or you cleave off the fluorescent staining, is that cell the same? They'll all say no. What we do is, without labeling, just move the cell across the channel and then separate it out afterwards. So we're the ones that can do this in vitro study afterwards. Pull it off, look at it, culture it. So I'm just going to hit up the advantages again. We're label and marker free. So we can separate out cells, multiple cells on a chip and immediately make them available for a biologist, a researcher, or drug testing. We're rapid and minimal. We're actually just over 1 milliliter per hour throughput right now. Some of the bigger guys are doing a little bit better than this, but this is a pretty big jump for us because just about a year ago we were at 0.2 milliliters per hour. So we're 1.2 now, and we can serialize these chips. We can stack them together to have an additive method of separation. We're low cost. We're benchtop sized as compared to some of these Fax Max machines. Many of the other ones that are room sized and take somebody who's got a master's degree or a PhD degree to actually run them. Ours is about the size of a laptop computer. You take a laptop to run it. Our graphic interface is easily, if you can log on to Facebook, you can use the graphic interface. And we use disposable chips that are less than $2 a pop right now. And that's laboratory cost. That's not high production. So, as I mentioned, there's 55 companies or more worldwide that are doing this, and I'm just going to go through. This is again a partial list, but I'm going to hit up 2 of these guys. The first one is Veridix, and they're Johnson & Johnson. You might have heard of Janssen. They're at Raritan, New Jersey. The reason I'm mentioning them is because they're the only FDA-approved test on the market right now. But even, as I mentioned before, they are an antigen-based separation company, and some of their results have been brought into question because of this EMT transmission that cells can go through. They lose the expression of the protein on the outside of their cell that the fluorescence or the magnetic beads, depending on which test Veridix is using, binds to. So once cells go through EMT transmission, they sort of evade all these different capture methods that are antigen-based. The other one I'll mention is Apocell, and they're out of Texas. They do DEP, which is similar to CDEP. DEP is just dielectrophoresis, versus ours is contactless. They do a radial focusing, and they also have a chamber that's about 30 centimeters long versus our chip is about 2 inches by 3 inches. They have low resolution in the radial focusing, just a positive or negative result for the test, not accounting or anything like that. DEP is more expensive, and then also because the electrodes are actually in the channel and not separated from the biological fluid, if you have a cell that comes in contact with that electrode, there's a high probability that you'll lyse the cell, therefore making your sample non-sterile, and you wouldn't be able to collect your sample afterwards. Looking at the market for something like this, our product would be launched in a 3-phase method. We'd start with researchers and academics, and we already have several people who are interested in purchasing our first run prototypes. The rest of the market, if you look at the U.S., we look towards moving towards pharmaceutical and contract work, which GSK, Pfizer, a lot of these guys already are interested in pursuing cellular-based diagnostics and looking at these for their next drugs that they're trying to develop, because they've sort of run out of all of the different compounding that they can do and the different genotypes that they can do. They need to look at what actually is going on with the cell, what is the cell expressing, not what it could be possibly doing. Worldwide-based cell diagnostics is $14 billion, and of that, the flow cytometry, the FACS and MAX, is about just under $5 billion a year. The big kicker for this, the real zoning in on the market, is the next generation cancer diagnostics at 5.3 and growing at 47% compound annual growth rate, and worldwide CTC diagnostics growing at $5.7 billion a year. Okay.
Thank you. Questions from the judges? You have a microphone that we have to use. Sorry.
Too much technology.
And you may have to turn it on.
What else do we have? What is that? Green light.
Three. You got it.
What can happen for you to fail tomorrow?
What can happen?
For you to fail tomorrow. I mean, what's one thing that can happen to you that will fail this entire event?
Why would it work?
How would you fail? We always think about succeeding.
Yeah. I think that the challenges for success is moving this, one of the biggest ones is moving this from, right now we do have some prep work in order to separate the cells out. We have a specific mixture that we suspend the cells in as they go through the devices. And the hardest thing is actually going to be moving towards direct, what's called liquid biopsy, direct from blood, because the chemical characteristics are quite different in that. So that's the most difficult challenge that's upcoming for us.
I have two questions. Is the manufacturing of this device, is that been considered in terms of whether or not it's going to be prohibitive in the marketplace at all?
As far as cost?
Yeah.
Actually, this is pretty well movable to a high throughput device, wherein you can take a metal stamp and actually run this through a press. So these would actually be lower cost than they are currently in the lab.
Okay. The second question is your IP. Is it a process patent?
Yeah. Am I allowed to move to that slide?
That's life.
We have 4 patents that we've applied for. 2 of them, one of them is already issued. The other one will issue next month, and that's the base patent that covers the majority of this technology.
So it looks like it's a. Is it a process patent?
No, it's a utility patent.
Utility patent.
Yeah.
But there's that utility patent is divided up into process, composition, and matter. I just want to what is your intrinsic claim?
The intrinsic claim is the electrodes are separated from the main channel by a membrane that's got a capacitance to it, and that keeps the main channel sterile, and also allows us to do some of these things that you can't do with standard DEP.
Okay. Right.
And that's the standard DEP is a bit older, it's a couple decades older, so nobody has a patent on that anymore.
Thank you.
Great presentation, thank you very much.
Sorry, I ran out of time.
Yes, could you please elaborate a little bit about your product development plan?
Sure.
You started on the stages, but could you put some time frame?
Always fly, right.
So yeah, so
Thank you.
so if anybody's taking notes, that's what to do is run out of time early, then everybody will ask you questions. So you get to go through them anyway. So our development path over the next 2 years is moving from where we are right now, which is it's benchtop based. There's a lot of operator input to connect all the tubes up and start the individual syringe pump and stuff like that. Moving that towards an intrinsic stamp, you place a manifold on it, increasing our throughput to match 7.5 milliliters per hour, which is going to be the standard if it's not really sort of accepted already. We're going to be looking at initiating a CLIA certification as opposed to going to FDA 1 initially, which is a lab-based certification. We expect to be having sales within 2 years, and we'll begin, probably we'll have sales before that, but I'll say we're going to start services in 24 months for contract work for biologists and research labs. If they want to find out, hey, I've got this cell population, I don't know if it has other cell subpopulations, but I'm interested in finding out, can you guys help me? And then we'll do pharmaceuticals and hopefully our first license to a lab diagnostics like Quest or one of the other major ones in the U.S. They already licensed the Veridix from Johnson & Johnson.
Very good presentation. What is the end game? Where do you want to end up?
We want to end up a couple of years down the road being one of the major players in the CTC market, and then we're targeting acquisition for the end of that to sell off the company or move on from that to be able to go out and do the next thing.
Other questions? Yes, Jason?
So you did your tests with prostate cancer cells?
We've done PC3s, which is a prostate cancer, ALDH positive negative, which is prostate cancer, breast cancer. We've also done MOS cells, which is a mouse cancer cell, and those are the ones we've had sort of really extensive testing on, where we've looked at, I don't want to say stages because it's not right to say stages, it's sort of aggressiveness of the tumor cells and the stem-relatingness of those tumor cells.
And my question really is, how different are the various cells from the different types of cancers? Does your system have to be tuned for different types of cancers? Is it more generalized? Talk about that.
So that's an interesting question because there's some debate on some of that, and also the new technology we're developing right now should allow us to make some more fine-tuned separations. Some of the cancer populations, especially if you're looking at the same strain like prostate cancer, will have some overlap. Some cancers have more overlaps between different cell lines than others. What we're looking at doing is increasing our bandwidth to increase the frequency for our amplifier. So part of this works on your frequency, and part of it works on the voltage. And the frequency, once you pass a certain threshold frequency, you'll start actually looking at specific small vesicles and structures within the cell, nucleus, Golgi apparatus, nucleus, cytoplasm-nucleus ratio. And you can then, from that, make a shrink down your range on where your cells are. So yes, there's crossover, but we believe that it's going to be solved between ALDH, like a ALDH and a PC3. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. I'd have to go back and look at the actual charts.
Other questions from the judges? No. So you're ready to talk about questions from the audience.
I see two questions here. I guess we can combine them. Do you have any commercial partners, interested acquirers?
We don't have any commercial partners that are interested in acquiring us.
Okay. And how are you planning to get your first customer?
We actually have our first customers already. We have 4 of them who are, some of the biologists have been working with us already as we've started to develop this because they were the ones that were sort of interested in these cells. So we've got 4 of those already. We think that once they get their first papers out, that's really going to generate sort of the groundswell to get other researchers involved with this. And then that will hopefully move us on as far as the next phases and sort of get the public ready for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I never ran along, but I'll do it by myself.
Just keep in mind, Joe, this is TTC4, not TTC1.
Right.
The rest of the presentations pick up TTC1, T3.
So the next set of presenters is VIV, energy from, well, vortex-induced vibration, or maybe in your book as hydrokinetic power systems. The team consists of Gary Nave, Tyler Michael, Mark Stremler, and Sagat Bazoo. And
change it.
who's going to be first? Gary. And there are microphones there.
All
Or
right.
are you going to use one? I like the hand.
This will be TTC.
Green light.
Wonderful. My name is Gary Nave. I recently accepted my offer to continue here at Virginia Tech for a PhD, so I'm a PhD candidate. This is Dr. Mark Stremler, my advisor. This is recently Dr. Shaikat Basu, and Tyler Michael is in class right now, unfortunately. And also on the team, we've got an associate member over at Purdue University, Dr. Pavlos Vlahos, who was here at Virginia Tech as this company was starting. Well, that's nice. We are targeting small-scale remote power systems, particularly less than 5 kilowatts. Such as, man, that's really throwing me off. Small-scale remote power systems are expensive to power. It costs about $70,000 per mile to lay power lines out to a new location. Generators have high operating costs. You have to go out consistently and refuel them. Wind and solar applications are inconsistent because wind and sun are not happening all the time. So we're targeting these remote systems that have less power needs to where it's not quite worth the dollar to run power lines out to them. So our proposed system is a 1 to 3 kilowatt scale system that uses river and tidal flows, particularly slow-moving river and tidal flows, to provide power for some of these remote locations. Flowing water is a largely untapped resource. Currently, the state-of-the-art requires at least 2.5 to 3.5 meters per second of water flows, where we're targeting 0.5 to 1.5 meters a second. As a point of reference, the Chesapeake Bay Tidal Basin in D.C. Runs at about 0.7 meters per second. So very slow-moving water flows. Currently, due to the high flow speed requirements of the state-of-the-art, about 70% of water flows in the United States are untapped. So in order to tap into these flows, in order to use this low power, we're going to use a phenomenon called vortex-induced vibration that Shaikat's going to talk about.
So I'm going to discuss the governing principles on which our design is based. So when we place a bluff body in a flow domain, usually these vortex-like structures are shed into the flow. And these vortex structures, they generate regions of oscillating pressures, which induces some forces on the body. And those forces make the body move transversely with respect to the flow. And that particular motion is called vortex-induced vibration. And in our design, we are going to, the design is based on this governing principle of vortex-induced vibrations. You will find vortex-induced vibrations in many examples around us in this, in the nature. For example, like on the highways, when you drive just behind the truck, you will feel some sideways vibrations on your car. So those are, that motion is induced by the vortices that are shed from the truck. And so in our design, we are trying to extract the energy from that vortex-induced motion. And based on the expertise that we have as a group on vortex wave dynamics, we have found that there are certain specific types of vortex wave modes that lead to more motion of the body. And more motion implies that more mechanical energy can be extracted from the system. So that's the first principle that we are trying to use, generate those particular modes, design our device in such a way that those modes are created, which ensures more motion. And secondly, there is another physical phenomenon which is called galloping. So galloping happens when there are multiple bodies in the flow, and wakes are shed from those multiple bodies, and those wakes interact there, and after that interaction, that enhances the motion of the body. And to utilize that principle in our design, we have two cylinders. So the front cylinder is, so this cylinder is a fixed cylinder, and this blue cylinder is freely oscillating. So it is connected to the front cylinder via this overhanging arms. So the flow first strikes the front cylinder. It sheds some vortices in the flow. Those vortices will strike this outer cylinder, which will initiate the motion. Again, this outer cylinder on its own will generate some vortices of its own, and that enhances the motion. Now, as you can see, this is connected to this front cylinder, and these overhanging arms are connected to a centrally running shaft that passes through the central axis of the front cylinder. So all the alternating oscillations of the outer cylinder, they are transmitted via these overhanging arms to this centrally running shaft. So the shaft also does those alternating oscillations, and we use a gear assembly to convert those alternating oscillations to a full unidirectional rotational motion, which can be used to power a generator. So this is the basic idea on which our design is based. And based on this design, until now we have developed 2 prototypes as our proof of concept, and we have tested those prototypes in water tunnel flows over here at Virginia Tech. And the flow velocities that we could attain in the water tunnels were around 0.45 to 0.5 meters per second, which is considerably slower than what we can expect in real on-site locations. For example, like as Gary said, in the Chesapeake Basin region, the flow speeds are around 0.7 to 0.8 meters per second. So despite the fact that the flows that we could achieve were considerably slower, the performance of the device is quite up to our expectations. And right now we are trying to improve on the design to better the performance. And I must mention that we have filed a provisional patent for this technology last year, and work is ongoing right now. And with this, I'd like to give the counter to Larry.
Thanks, Jacob. We've got a couple supporting technologies that are helping us out. Once again, I apologize for the PowerPoint. So we've got a low starting torque generator, which was developed by Dr. Shashank Priya's group here in the Center for the Energy Harvesting Materials and Systems, CEMS. And it is used for very small scale wind turbines, so it requires almost no torque to get started. And so based on those generators, we're actually looking at a very easy conversion from our motion to power. And we've also got a floating platform design. Both of these technologies are unprotected. They have let their provisional patents fall, and so they are free for us to access right now. The floating platform design uses pontoons to support a platform that our device will be attached to on top, and that those pontoons will also channel the flow so that we definitely get it in the direction that we want, and it actually speeds it up a little bit as well. So in order to get into the market, we're targeting cell phone towers. New cell towers require only about 2 to 3 kilowatts of power. There are currently 300,000 cell towers in the United States, projected to get to 370,000 by 2020, according to Goldman Sachs. Globally, cell phone sites, we have 2.7 million as of 2010, and by the end of next year, they're projected to get to 3.9 million cell phone towers worldwide. So if we can provide power for some of these that need to be in remote locations, increasing the coverage for these cell phone companies that always like to brag about that, we would love to do that. Globally, we're going to start locally in the United States. We think that there is enough room in that market for us to provide power for a few towers to definitely get a foothold, but our eye is on the global market. You can see the green in this graph. This is exabytes of data used by cell phones per month. The green in this graph is Asia Pacific. So in the bottom left is where we are now. Asia Pacific will soon make up 42.4% of these exabytes of data. And in a lot of these rural regions worldwide, the grid is less strong, so these off-grid locations like our technology will be very, very useful. As far as competition for powering these off-site locations, we've got wind turbines, which are greater than $4,000 per kilowatt at the kilowatt scale that we're looking at. Solar power is about $6,000 per kilowatt. There are a few other hydrokinetic systems, for instance, Verdant hydrokinetic power systems. They require greater than 1 meter a second flow, and they're targeting tidal flows. And I've seen some of the graphs that they have on their website. They're only collecting power for about 4 hours of the day, because those are the times when the flow speed meets their power requirements. So based on the cost to make our first prototypes, based on the market availability, we're going to start at about $3,000 per kilowatt for our technology and move down to about $1,000 per kilowatt by year 9. In order to develop this technology, stage 1, we're going to simplify and move towards a 1 watt unit, just very small, very slow speeds, so that we can tinker with a lot of the different parameters going into this project and make it as optimal as possible. And then stage 2, we're going to take what we learned from stage 1 and make a 1 kilowatt unit. These scale a lot better than you might think. It won't take 100 of what we've got now to make a 1 kilowatt unit, because as velocity increases, as size increases, power goes up a lot. And then so once we've developed our minimum viable product, we're going to test it for a full year to see all 4 seasons. Although if you're in Blacksburg, it might only take a week to see all 4 seasons of testing for our technology. And we're going to monitor the power output as it goes along for that full year in stage 3. To talk about the team, Dr. Markstrom.
All right, so I get to talk about the people involved here, and I get, 1 minute to do so. All right, so Gary Nave, you've met. He's been working on his master's degree. His expertise is in fluid mechanics, and he's been working on the experiments for that. And as you can tell, he's also very well spoken. So thinking about this as an entrepreneurial venture only makes sense if there's a good student to take the lead, because I'm not going to quit my job to do this. And Gary has the expertise and the ability to do that, but also with his PhD program that he's willing to put on hold if things progress properly. He has a nice backup as well with the PhD studies. Tyler Michael is finishing his MS. He's been working heavily on the gear train design and the generator design. So the generator isn't considered a protectionable right now because they've got the patent on that slide. However, it does provide a key part of this, and it's a unique generator, and we can fine-tune it, and in part because, which I'm not going to get to the next slide probably, Shashank Priya is a key team member as an advisor in this regard. Shoykat's moving on to a postdoc, but is going to have the freedom to continue participating in the technology development. And then me. And it was developed in the beginning. The idea was brainstorming with Pablo Flacco. And he's still actively involved. We talk about once a week about this. And we're done. And it says 11 minutes and 50 seconds, so we lost 10 seconds, which means that I'm going to do that.
David's going to ask questions from the judges.
Very good. Can you give me an idea of the price that you're looking at per unit? What do you think this is going to come in at?
So per unit, we're looking at $9,000 to $10,000. The price per kilowatt is based on a 3 kilowatt unit. So $9,000 for a 3 kilowatt unit in the beginning. We're targeting moving down to about $3,000 per unit.
Okay, good. Since most cell towers are on hills and most water's in the valley, help me out with how we're going to get the power up to and how that's going to occur, and to get to the location that's remote.
Yeah. So we're looking at rural areas, probably a lot of mountainside streams, probably that we won't have to go as far with the power from the mountainside rivers to nearby on the mountain for the cell phone tower.
What's one final question? What do you think the life expectancy or serviceability will be on the unit?
So they will be very serviceable because we're targeting a surface mount, which is different than many other hydrokinetic systems around. We want ours to be able to be attached to the top, so the only thing in the water is the mechanical stuff, and all the electrical stuff is out of the water. So based on that, it's going to have a nice lifespan, because all that's in the water right now is plastic and metal. And then it's easy to pull up the surface from there.
Thank you.
I saw that you're forcing this thing to be a laminar.
Right.
In nature, I guess, do we have much laminar flow in places where water is? I'm not a.
So actually, at these flow speeds, it's not laminar. Right? The graphic that was shown to illustrate with the flat plate and then the idealization of where the vortices are, that's a laminar flow image. But even at these flow speeds, it's not a laminar flow. It's a slow enough flow that the flow is reasonably consistent, but it's not a laminar flow. And even though the laboratory tests that we're doing right now are close to what you would expect, it's about half the speed of what we're expecting to target in practical applications. But then the power goes up just about exponentially with the flow speed for this range. So you can gain a lot just by doubling the flow speed, but it's still a turbulent flow.
One more thing. So based on our design as well, the rear cylinder is just purely attached to a central shaft. So if the flow shifts a little bit, then that actually just provides more rotation to our generator. And the floating platform design will keep it fairly consistent.
And the $9,000 that you stated, it includes the platform.
So that I don't believe that we had considered the platform. I apologize about that. But the platform is a relatively small cost. It's 2 pontoons in the platform. That's about it. So yeah, it'll go up slightly.
Because I'm ignorant of this, discuss the EPA implications of greater than 1 kilowatt hydro systems and its acceptance with other technologies in the country. I know that very small scale systems people use all the time, but I also know that larger scale systems have had issues. So talk about the regulatory hurdles in putting a device in the water where there could be fish and other things that would cause concerns.
Right, so that's actually one advantage of our technology. A lot of other hydropower systems use blades, and that is where a lot of this damage to fish has come. Because ours is 2 cylinders, the fish might get spun around in the vortex, but he'll keep on swimming after he moves on by. So it's got relatively low impact from what we see and understand right now. The regulatory stuff.
Yeah, well, if you're going to address it, I was just going to make sure you did. But as far as a specific answer to your EPA question, we don't know yet.
Yeah. But we do have so the slide that we're flipping to in the questions, we do have Dr. Richard Hirsch on our advisory board, and his research has been on relevant legislation on low power technology specifically, and in addition, some of the legislation on slow speed systems.
Have other hydropower in water systems been approved in the United States?
Yes.
I have a few questions. One is trying to get a picture of this system. Are these systems going to be in streams all over the country? How many in streams? You know, I'm trying to get a vision of how this is all going to end up in 9 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many pontoons? Are we going to see dotted around the rivers and streams of the United States?
River Alliance. So yeah, we're targeting a lot of early growth. Yeah, we're going to start out slow, working with a few industry partners to kind of prove that our technology works and is effective. We're gonna target moving into about probably 200 to 300 cell sites early on within the first 5 years or so, and then kind of grow from there. Once we've got a decent foothold in the United States, we really think that our technology is better suited worldwide. We just don't want to start worldwide because we're here now, and because a lot of money is in the United States as well. But we think that our technology is better suited where the grid is less effective and powerful.
So how many pontoons per stream? I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of it.
Yeah, so how many pontoons per stream? Probably only 3 or 4. Yeah, it'll just be like one little cross-sectional area by the tower is all that it will take to create enough power for the tower. Yeah.
The other question is intellectual property again. I noticed that you filed a provisional patent application in September of 2013. That means you have about 5 months to, now what do you have to do in that 5 months? You have to enable it? Have you got sufficient enablement for you to convert that to a regular utility patent application?
We believe so. So we've been talking with VTEC about this, and it looks like we're on track for that. Then it just becomes a matter of finding the resources to pay for the patent application. But as far as our work in enabling the technology, my understanding in discussions with them is that we're on track.
Okay, so you're on track to convert that to a regular utility patent application with solid background for your claims?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and the next question is how is this working? Is this licensing through, is this going to be licensed out through VTEC, or how is that?
Yeah, we will license through VTEC. We filed through VTEC at this point.
Okay.
And so we will license with VTEC.
Okay, do you have any interested parties at this point looking at this technology at all?
So far we've just been looking at doing it as a startup.
Okay.
Right, so we're not approaching this as a licensing opportunity.
I see, okay.
We're looking at...
You can license to yourself?
Yes. Yeah, so having the proper arrangement with VTEC to be able to do the startup.
We now know who has applied for more patents.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Have you thought about capital intensity? How much money do you need in order to get to market?
We thought about it some. We have some rough numbers back on our slide. We think it'll take us about $500,000 to get a nice product that we can sell to somebody and grow it from there. But we've only looked at it to a certain extent at this point.
I guess in follow-up to John's question and your reply, wouldn't that make your technology seasonal?
Yes, so first of all, the cell phone tower technology is just one of the possible applications of for AWS. Eventually, we are looking to expand outside AWS, and as for proximity to flowing streams, if you go to Asia, flowing streams are pretty easily available close to cell phone towers. So that's a huge thing, and as for the seasonal variation, it's not so in the Asian subcontinent. That's a huge market that we are trying to target in the next 5 to 6 years.
Right. And water flows year-round is kind of our goal. We're not going to put it up where ice will get in the way.
You got any questions?
Okay. Yes, we have several questions.
One.
Okay.
We could go.
I guess majority of these are already asked, but there is one question here. For low flow rate water, how do you handle debris that attaches to the structure or large debris like a tree that will impact the structure?
So yeah, we haven't tested it in the field yet.
You are not accounting for trees coming down.
No, it's not in our model.
Or fishermen.
I think if trees are flowing down the river, any hydrokinetic energy system is going to have a problem. But in terms of just regular debris, that was one of the reasons that we looked at this design. Is that it has a fairly minimal cross section and it's not going to be easily clogged. It depends a bit on what we do with the pontoon platform around it, but the pontoon platform is an option. It isn't a requirement in order to support this. So in an area where there might be a lot of regular debris, you can make it pretty robust and non-cloggable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It is time for a break. If everyone will return by 10:35, we can hopefully stay on schedule. Thank you.
Did you work in Europe?
I am from Europe.
Oh, you are from Europe. Okay.
We did a lot of work.
All right. You took the microphone and then
Yeah. What is that? That's composition of matter.
And fatalities are harder to turn on the rest. can see where the right extreme condition.
I'm one of the main
Oh, really? Okay. For the
Deserts of West Texas, probably.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
It's really just a handful of us.
So much for the duct tape.
Yeah, that's right. It lasted a little bit.
Yeah, just in case. Just in case, yeah.
For us, the hotspot other than the hotel Wi-Fi. If you're fine with that, it's fine. It's working. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Certainly not what I go
So this is working for me. He's far.
You're on here.
No, that's fine. The whole panel can use it.
After the break, next time I touch, it might have been enough time for me to it's just the same thing that you did.
So I'm going there and go.
I see
Okay, so our vote is confidential.
So Mark thinks there's enough. So if you make your last
So Donna's better coordinated pharmaceutical. We're actually Jason have been in the throes of the fundraise. So I don't know if your organization is interested in looking at what we have. Yeah, I know. Well, see, of course I used to work with RJ. Yeah, you know the Terry technology, pharmaceuticals, all that. Okay, I wrote that. You may not know that, but
No, I mean that was all that stuff.
yeah. So I started working for Lotus Biochemical, then it became New York Pharmaceuticals in 2000. And I wrote the original Caraway patent application, and actually going by the projects. And so what I did is after I left New York Pharmaceuticals in 2003, I thought the business model was really good. I liked it. Okay, but of course I couldn't the technology that you're filed. So I basically applied the same business model, but instead of using peptides and amino acids to modulate performance of these methods. So over the next, from 2003 to 2005, I did my research, did all the experiments, and myself, and basically got the patent file in 2005 for metal-coordinated pharmaceuticals. And we're now getting close to clinical trials on antidote compounds, Parkinson's disease. We're getting close to clinical trials on compounds, disease states. So, we got lab, the old New York Pharmaceuticals, and then I got 4 PhDs there and a handful of scientists. So, I mean, we're happy to talk to you about it if you're interested. Yeah, so anyway. Now, one more we can do, and we should be done. One more, and then that's all we
So if you have a range that's let down, it takes out your support.
And then,
There's also a big battery back that drops there. It's a stick. Stick. Breaks up the vortex.
That'd be impressive.
No, it wouldn't be. And so, yeah, I think that you're right.
That's just our people camping next to us. So we were just running experiments with a 10-foot system, 18-inch wheels. And we were getting yeah, we're testing right now in a 2-foot by 2-foot. Yeah.
One system that we're going to use as sort of our tabletop demo concept is what they can have the whole thing. Yes, it does. And you can yeah, it's more chaotic, but it's good. Especially as the folks that walk faster and all things. But there can be some to a certain extent, the issue of too many of these then they aren't necessarily safe. Clean the flow as to whether it's the best is when they all sink together. But at some point, we haven't tested that to be able to answer that question.
students here? Awesome. Yeah, excellent. Absolutely. For a good reason. Yeah. And they take more than 3 kilowatts of power.
Most reliable grid.
If we can start to sit down again, that would be helpful.
I hit start when you said go. Needed to.
Thank you.
He's there.
He's there.
Jones.
He was. Maybe he's in the men's room. Yes. Boy. Very important to have the judges here.
We'll do them all first.
He's eating those peanut blankets. Oh, I ate them. I removed
Blanket.
the blanket. I just eat the pig.
Poor pig.
Let me introduce the next team. It's Lynn Codes, just checking this, I should say. Boris Benitzer and Lenwood Heath. And I think Boris is going to make the presentation.
Good morning. My name is Boris Benitzer, and I'm President and CEO of TGL. And today I'll talk to you about life identification number, LIN technology, to identify, classify, catalog, describe, and name all life on Earth. And with that I mean you, me, the bacteria on my hands, the plants outside. Everything that has a genome that can be sequenced. And in fact, that's the reason why it is time for LIN technology is because the cost of genome sequencing has dropped dramatically over the last few years. It has dropped faster than the cost for computing power described by Moore's law. Here's Moore's law. This is the cost of DNA sequencing. Therefore, the number of genomes that is being sequenced has skyrocketed. And here, this is the number of human genomes, but the same is true for bacteria, for plants, for fungi, and so on. Therefore, now genome sequencing is becoming the most economical way to identify perpetrators of crimes, certify new animal breeds and crop cultivars, study human ancestry, identify and describe biodiversity species, identify and track pathogens of humans, of animals, of plants. However, there's a problem. The DNA sequencing technology has improved a lot, but the things downstream have not. For example, biodiversity is still described in terms of species, the same way as hundreds of years ago almost, before DNA sequencing was even invented. Pathogen identification is slowly moving towards genome sequencing, but there's nothing in place to actually classify and name pathogen strains based on genome sequencing. Also, there are genome databases, but they're not designed for description of biodiversity, for identification of organisms, for tracking pathogens. So in other words, there's a serious bottleneck to really take advantage of this really great progress in DNA sequencing to do all these things. Therefore, TGL is developing LIN technology to open that bottleneck. What is LIN? LIN stands in fact for Life Identification Number. Using LIN, every organism is assigned a name, a LIN code, based on how similar the genome of that organism is to other related organisms. The more similar organisms are, the more similar the codes are. Therefore, looking at the LIN code of any two organisms, two bacteria, two human beings, I can tell exactly how similar they are. I show this in this figure. If you look at the top, here represented the genomes of two organisms that are very similar, high percentage identity. Here are the two LIN codes of these two organisms, and you can see that they are largely overlapping because these two organisms are very similar. If I go down to the last genome, organisms very, very different. The LIN codes very different. Example, you may remember the 2001, the anthrax attacks. You may know that the strain that was used in these attacks is called the AIM strain. And the AIM strain has that name because of a return address label on the envelope in which it was received. Other anthrax strains have similar nonsensical names. Therefore, even if I'm a microbiologist, if I'm a doctor, but I'm not an anthrax expert, if I look at names of anthrax strains, I don't know anything about them. But now with genome sequencing, and then if we apply our LIN codes, I can immediately see that the AIM strain and this A0248 strain are very similar. I just have to look at the LIN codes. And the same thing works for animals, for human beings. If I know the LIN code of the two organisms, I can tell how similar they are. So I don't need to be an expert in any pathogen in any group of organisms. A LIN patent application was filed in March by VTIP. TGL, our company, paid for this application, and we are now finalizing the letter of intent to get the license. We also published a paper about the technology to show other researchers and start promoting it, and it got a lot of attention, a lot of page views, a lot of PDF downloads. The TGL team is myself and Dr. Lenwood Heath here in the audience, who will come up to if you have questions afterwards. We are both faculty of Virginia Tech. I am the biologist on the team, a lot of expertise in genomics, in DNA sequencing. Dr. Heath has the expertise in computer science and bioinformatics. We both have a track record of many peer-reviewed publications and of funding. Which leads me to the next question. How can we make money with a system to name things? The key is that besides the LIN codes that we can assign with our technology, we will build a database, LIN-based, with a web-accessible interface, and this database will contain all the genomes that are submitted to it together with the LIN code, and all the genomes that are publicly available. In this way, users of this database will be able to tell how everything that is in the database related to each other, and everything they submit to the database, the database will tell them exactly what it is. So it will become, in our opinion, a basic tool, an essential tool to identify, catalog, classify, and describe any kind of life form, from bacteria, viruses, humans. Therefore, we believe that researchers, health departments, international organizations, law enforcement agencies, they will all at some point pay for access to this database. But how do we get there? It's a far way goal. We have a plan how to get there. And where we want to start is what we know best, with academic researchers like ourselves. And I know from my own experience that I would need a database like this, so that I can submit bacterial genomes easily and deposit them, publish them, communicate about the genomes with other researchers. Database that helps you identify bacteria based on the similarity to other bacteria and describe them in a fast way. Therefore, LIN-based at this step will accelerate identification, classification, description, naming of microbial diversity. And you may have heard about the big NIH project about the human biome, the bacteria live in our intestine, in our skin. The LIN-base will be a great tool for these researchers. Who will pay for that? When we submit this research as a grant to federal agencies, we can include money to publish our research papers. So we can include funding to deposit the genomes just the same way. This way, by using a relatively small group of researchers, the database can grow. And the more it grows, the more organisms are in the database, the more useful it will become. And so every submitted genome becomes part of the database. It becomes more valuable. And so we think that the first market, academic researchers, yes, maybe it's a relatively small market, but it will help us grow the database, make it more valuable. And then the next step is to go into pathogens, human pathogens maybe, infectious disease agents, foodborne pathogens, animal pathogens. And our database, our naming system, our classification system, will be a great tool for the CDC, for animal and plant health inspection services, state health departments, but really for health departments around the world. Right now, the database that we have are paid by US taxpayer money, but people in Russia and New Zealand are using the same. So I think that there will be good support also from politicians saying, no, it's better to have a service that you pay, that the users pay, and not that the US government pays for. Future markets, as I said, is applicable to everything. So human forensic, human ancestry, you're interested in your ancestry, you can get a code, microbial forensics, animal breed certification, crop cultivar certification, and many, many applications. What's the competitive position? There are genome databases, but they are not built for identification, for tracking pathogens. There are systems in place to describe biodiversity based on species, but these systems are very slow. As I said, their base principle is based on linearity. So they cannot keep up with this rate of discovery. You may have heard of barcodes for life, which is used to identify new specimens, assign them to a species. But it's not very precise, and it's not the same goal. It's not at the level of an individual organism. Then there are some pathogen-specific schemes. There are databases for salmonella, there's another base for another pathogen. but they all work differently, they all have different systems. So it is very difficult to go from one to the other. Instead, link codes can be applied to everything. So what's our near future goals? The research and development plan. We are currently using the system to assign putative provisional link codes to thousands of genomes, of bacterial genomes. We're publishing papers and present at conferences. 1 year from now, we want to start improving the way we do that to make it fast and efficient to grow, to scale up. And 2 years from now, our goal is to produce the first lint-based prototype so that it can be tested by academic researchers. And then, by the end of 2 years, what we hope to have is a prototype that we can then show to the CDC, to our agency, saying we can do this, and now we can apply for large contracts to actually build it up. How do we do this these 2 years? We're currently preparing SBIR grant to NSF and NIH, trying to identify business and scientific partners. What we will do with this funding, we need a very small number of computer scientists to develop the database, the website, improve the algorithms, and we need management. And 2 years from now, there will start to make applications for larger government contracts to develop lint-based for pathogen identification to track. And the end, what we see, again, going back from the 2 years to the far to the goal, is to really have lint-based at the center of many different applications, going from human disease, human ancestry, taxonomy, that description of biodiversity, plant breeding, plant diseases. In all these different applications, lint-based, we see it playing a central role. And if in the future you go to a doctor and you have strep throat, you will be affected by link codes. The link codes will be used to identify exactly what's affecting your throat. If you want to study your ancestry, you can get a link code, and you can compare your link code with the link code of other people, see how you're related to each other. So I think really almost any aspect of the life sciences and a lot of aspects of our lives, lint-based will help in all of this. I'm happy to take questions.
So, this is a real problem. I mean, it's a very interesting solution. About 4 years ago, I was in a meeting with 6 or 7 PhDs where they all worked for the same company, but they represented 3 different teams, and they were discussing what they called the nomenclature problem, where each of the 3 of them teams wanted to name the DNA vectors that they were classifying differently. So certainly a summarized way to describe DNA would be very interesting for society. Now, at the same time, it feels kind of like you guys are trying to put a metric system on the United States. So how do you win? How do you win in that process?
That's a good question. And yes, the taxonomists who are very attached to the species, they will not want to embrace it. But the majority of scientists hate the taxonomists. If they don't like it, they will love the system.
So your plan is to have people submit the genome sequence to you guys that you would then electronically classify it. So my question is, what about folks that have custom sequences that they don't want out into the public? And is your thought process that both the sequences and the names would be available to everyone?
That's a very good point. You want to talk?
Sure. I think if someone wants to keep it private, keep the sequence private, that's fine. We're going to still use it in creating codes. And we'll give them a code back. And we don't need to make it public. If someone wants to, for example, communicate with someone who has a private genome in our database, we can set up some kind of communication.
Yeah, I see it like Facebook. You have privacy settings for your genomes. You want to share a genome with nobody, you don't. You want to share your genome with your friends, you do it. If you want to make your genome public, you do that. So I haven't seen the database to have a structure like that.
I mean, I also wonder if you could have a business model where you sold or licensed your algorithm to labs or to corporate customers who could then classify their own internal things using your system, but without being made public.
But that's a possibility, but I think really, in fact, the advantage is that you can, like for researchers or for companies, maybe they want to deposit the genome, but they don't want to make it public. So by submitting to Linbase, they could just get back a code, but nobody can actually see the sequence. If somebody does not want to at all to share that with Linbase, yes, then I think the technology could be made available to companies.
Just a quick question. Where are you in the database development process, and how many codes have you entered?
So what we have done, we did a proof of concept study where we used several hundred bacterial genomes, some thousands of human mitochondrial genomes. And so we made sure that the codes that we assign are informative of the known relationships between these organisms. The database itself, we have not built. We now, in our next project, we're taking a few hundred genomes of one group of bacteria and we start building the database.
I don't want to I just basically simplify what you're doing, but back in the 60s we came up, or 70s or 50s, we came up with
The SKU system, right? UPC codes. You go to Walmart, everything is a UPC code. You enter that UPC code in Amazon and it tells you what this product is. It's a database of saying what is the dimension, what is the weight, what is this, what is the, this acid, that acid. So are you defining a UPC code for genome, and then how can you possibly tell people, I've never seen two scientists agree on anything. How can you make a business out of trademarking UPC codes?
But it's not a UPC code.
I didn't mean to say that.
Right, no. But there's a basic difference, and it's a good question. Because the difference between a UPC code and the link code is that the link code tells you how this organism is related to all the other organisms. So it has that information in it. But, and again, it's a very good point. Yes, researchers, they never agree. But the good thing is you don't have to agree. There are no description of species in here. You don't have to decide what should be one class, what should be a larger class. You don't have to decide anymore. With this system, actually, we don't need species anymore. And that's often the problem with scientists. What is this? This is species now. You can't. What I see in the database is that researchers can say, for me, this group of organisms is important and has this common phenotypic characteristics. They can do that. But somebody else doesn't agree. It's okay. But the codes are always there. So the codes are independent of any description. And so I think that's a really big advantage.
I understand what you're saying. My question is, from a business perspective, you're coming up with a series of binary 0 and 1s. Again, whether it is the first line, the second line, or third line, it's a sequence of numbers and characters, right? So you had 0 and 1s, or in 2s, and then sub ABCDs. It's a sequence of a definition which is pretty revolutionary, let's say. But it's easy to copy once the idea is out. Anybody can come up with their, Russians can come up with alpha, beta, gamma, to the sub.
Yes,
it's omega.
It's another very good question, but the names have to be unique. Yes, the Russians may come up with their own system, but then they cannot communicate with anybody else.
They never do.
But especially what the examples that we like to use is with a disease outbreak. There may be a new disease outbreak. Some people in New Zealand get sick, some people in Argentina get sick. Yes, if everybody has their own system, they cannot communicate. But if we want to control, for example, in fact, disease outbreaks, we need to communicate. We need the same name for the same thing. And link codes have one of the great advantages that with genome sequencing in combination with link codes, we can have a unique identifier. As soon as a disease breaks out, everybody can use the same link code. And if someone doesn't want to be part of that, then it's bad for them.
If we are here 3 years from now, what are your revenues going to be, and who's your main client?
As pointed out, the first clients will be the academic researchers. And will not be a lot of revenue, but it will improve our database. In the first revenue, 3 years, I don't know if it's 3, 4, 5 years, but I see if we show with academic researchers the system work, that then we can get large government contracts. I think the main customers will be the health agencies from different countries.
Okay, some questions from the audience. How many questions? Two questions. How are you dealing with HIPAA? So the HIPAA compliance, basically health. You can't share anybody's. Yes.
Okay. Yes. It's a very good point. So again, we start out with the biodiversity, academic researchers, where we don't have to deal with that. But after that, when we start working with pathogens, then there are a lot of security issues. So that will be our second market. Then about privacy, about human genomes, that's again the next step, because of course there are more concerns. And that will be a big part of what we deal with. I think it can be dealt with, but yes, we are aware of that.
Another question is, I guess, similar to BRAIN initiative. Why isn't the federal government doing this? Or will they do this when the next president comes and hears the resolution?
Yes. But as I pointed out, why should the U.S. taxpayer pay for something that's used around the world? This is currently the system with the main genome database. NCBI is NIH, but the New Zealand researcher doesn't pay for it. The Russian researcher doesn't pay for it. So I think that it would make more sense, since this is something that really will be used around the world. It only makes sense to be used around the world. That it is not financed by the U.S. government, but it's a separate entity, and New Zealand wants to use it, the researcher in New Zealand wants to use it, we'll pay for it. The researcher in the U.S. wants to use it, we'll pay for it. I think it's a better system.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Talk among yourselves. organizations, porous metal coatings, right? Atia Hogdors and Mehdi Kardar are going to present.
Hello everyone. I want to talk about our technology porous metallic coating and the company that we formed around that, PNP Coating. This technology is a platform of dozen low-cost and eco-friendly products. The large-scale manufacturing of these products can easily be done using the available manufacturing facilities in the industry. You have the choice to select the material for the coating. It can be selected from different metals, and it can be applied on any conductive surface. We have also showed that these coatings can be non-wetting or super hydrophobic. We divide our products to two main categories. In the first category, we utilize the super hydrophobic property of these coatings. These super hydrophobic coatings repel water, so they can be used to solve problems involving water, such as corrosion, dust buildup, fouling, ice formation. In the second category, we utilize the large surface area of these porous coatings. Due to this large surface area, these coatings can be used as catalysts, or they can be used to enhance bonding between polymer and metals. The annual market of the coating products in the US is around $108 billion. The coating products have a diverse market, consists of different industry sectors, from oil and gas to infrastructure and marine. Our first market entry is a superior anti-corrosion coating called Shielded. Shielded coating significantly improved the current stage of the technology in metallic anti-corrosion coating. It has higher performance compared to the existing metallic anti-corrosion coating, so it provides a better solution for the corrosion problem, which, as you know, is everywhere on any metallic structures. So in this video that I show you now, you will see the common metallic, an existing metallic coating. These coatings resist corrosion due to their superior chemistry, but they easily get wet, and because of that, they fail at the exposure to the water. So see how easy these coatings get wet. So they absorb water droplet right after the first contact. So in contrast, shielded coatings, they made from the same material, so they have the same superior chemistry, and also they made from using the same manufacturing process, but they have superior non-wetting properties, so they have better anti-corrosion performance. You can see the superior super hydrophobic property of these coatings in this video. Okay, I push a water droplet to the coating surface. The droplet deforms completely, but it doesn't adhere to the surface, though it's the same material as the other video that I showed you. Our main competitor, as I explained, is metallic anti-corrosion coatings. But in the market of anti-corrosion coatings, there are two other components, polymer coatings and anodized coatings. Though the performance of the metallic anti-corrosion coatings is lower than polymer coatings, but for some application that we need durability and conductivity, market doesn't have currently any other option than metallic anti-corrosion coatings. Compared to the in addition, compared to the anodized coating, metallic anti-corrosion coatings have other advantages because they can be applied on different metals. Shielded coating has all the advantages of the existing metallic anti-corrosion coatings, like durability and conductivity, and it can be applied on different metals because it is made from the same metal as the existing metallic anti-corrosion coating, and it is made through the same manufacturing process. But it has non-wetting property, and because of that, its performance is better than the existing metallic anti-corrosion coating. So our market focus is metallic anti-corrosion coating, which consists an annual share of $1.4 billion in the U.S. Due to the breadth of our technology platform, we plan to generate revenue through royalty share by licensing small parts of our technology to mainly large chemical companies. So in this model, we first do an initial assessment to recognize our potential partners, which are likely to be chemical companies, large chemical companies, and we make strategic alliance with those companies. In this partnership, we provide technology support and innovative support, and we develop technology and product. Then we use the manufacturing facility of our partner for large-scale manufacturing of our product, and we use the strengths of our partner in marketing and distribution to get to the end users. But we get feedback from end users and apply that to our production line for the future products. We started our work on this technology from 3 years ago. 3 years ago, but 3 years ago. But in February 2013, we successfully developed and tested the first prototype of the product. And after that, we submitted a provisional patent application and started the initial customer discovery. In December 2013, we incorporated P&P coating around this technology. And after that, we formed a strategic alliance with a multinational chemical company. And they signed a confidentiality agreement on the first product, on our first product. In February 2014, we filed a PCT through VTIP, and after that, we defined a benchmark study on the first product in cooperation with our partner. Recently, we applied in a business plan competition to raise 15K, which helped us to launch our lab, and also we received CIT award which will assist us to write an SBIR proposal. So after 6 months, we will submit the SBIR proposal on the second product. At the same time, we will launch our lab and evaluate our first product in cooperation with our partner. And during these 6 months, we put a lot of sweat equity, but we need 15K to launch our lab, and we have planned to raise this amount from the business plan competition. So after that, before the first year of the award term, we used the phase 1 SBIR to develop our second product. At that stage, we developed the first minimum viable product in cooperation with our partner, and we started angel investor discussion and investigate other applications such as catalysis. In the second year of the award term, we continue our R&D effort on the second product using phase 2 SBIR, and we will receive annual funds. And at that time, we hopefully can distribute our first minimum viable product to the end users. So the CEO of P&P Coating is Mehdi Kargar, Mr. Mehdi Kargar. His background is in advanced coating design. He's inventor in 3 patent disclosures in the area of coating development. And he has 3 years experience as an independent contractor prior to Virginia Tech. I am CTO of the P&P Coating Technology, of the P&P Coating Company. I have a cross-disciplinary background in material science, chemical and mechanical engineering. My PhD was from Virginia Tech in mechanical engineering. I was the lead inventor on the on the PCT submitted on this technology, and I initiated the discussion with our partner on the first product. We have planned to hire a business development director, and we are looking for someone with good sales skill and with good links to the company, the chemical company, so it can help us to make more partnership with the chemical companies. So in summary, as I explained, we have a platform technology which has broad applications. We have submitted PCT on this technology, and we made the prototype of our first product. And the market focus of our first product is metallic anti-corrosion coating. And we made a strategic alliance with a multinational company on our first product. And we have planned to submit an NSF SBIR for developing our second product. And hopefully we can, at the same time, we can develop the minimum viable product, the first minimum viable product in cooperation with our partner. And the potential funding for these efforts would be the business plan competition, the SBIR fund, and the annual fund.
So how about this time I ask the first question? All corrosion coatings are as good as their first scratch, right?
A scratch? Yeah.
The moment you have the first scratch, now you have a battery and then all bets are over. So how is the scratch resistance of this? The reason I'm asking this is the pictures you show early on are all products that are environmentally exposed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You had the body of a corroded ship, you had the pipes. So in general, these coatings are all susceptible to these environmental factors.
Yeah.
So depending on the cost, replenishment, all of this stuff, how do you see this?
So unlike some of the polymer coating, because anti-corrosion coating definitely you should apply them on the metals. So the main thing is the lamination problem. We don't want something which has the lamination issue. For some of the polymer coating, this is a huge issue. You have the lamination issue. But for the metallic coating, for all the metallic coatings, in addition to this coating, you don't have any lamination issue because they are metal, and metals generally have good adhesion on other metals. But the non-wetting property of this coating, if you harshly scratch the surface, because the non-wetting property of this coating depends on the porosity. If you change the microscopic structure of the surface, if you sandblast the surface, then you will lose that. But other than that, no. I mean, it's...
Even if you scratch it and you limit the non-wetting, you still have the chemistry. Right?
Yeah.
So you become like everybody else. At the worst case, you become like others.
I have a couple questions. Is this a water-based or organic base?
No, that's a very good question. The manufacturing is water-based because for organic base, and this is one of the things that we say you don't have any problem with some of the environmental regulations, because if it's organic based, then you have problem with volatile solvents.
Most time you think of corrosion coating as being pinhole free. We use the term pinhole free, and this is porous. So how are you going to handle diffusion of gases coming in that are non-aqueous?
Actually, that is a very good question too. This is porous, but the pores are not connected. I mean that you cannot see the surface of the substrate from the top. The pores are not connected, so you won't have any problem on that.
The question everybody wants to know is, how much does it cost a gallon, and can I afford it?
Yeah. The material of this coating is similar as the common anti-corrosion coating. The manufacturing is the same manufacturing process. So the cost is similar to those coatings. But it depends on the material. If you use copper coating, the cost would be similar to the existing existing copper coating. If you use zinc coating, the cost would be similar to the existing zinc coating.
So the coating structure matches the base metal. Is that what you're saying?
The coating?
The coating structure is a function of manufacturing parameters. So in fact, what we use is imagine current manufacturing settings that they are available. What you know, the art here is to how to adjust the manufacturing parameters to get this coating. So it comes from manufacturing. Of course, the chemistry of the material affect the shape. It's a part that is some sort of process that can be affected. But the main art here is how you tune those manufacturing parameters to get this one. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
So you said you got like nickel, chrome,
exactly.
Whatever.
The art is here, and you can apply nickel on copper and so forth.
Can you talk about the IP? You touched a little bit on retail, but can you talk a little bit about that? And if you have any revenue projection numbers, that would be very helpful.
We have planned to license the technology because the technology was submitted as a PCT to VTIP, but we have planned to license the technology from, we are in the process of licensing the technology from VTIP. What was the second question?
Revenues. Projected revenue.
Oh, okay. For revenue, in 2 years, the only revenue that we will receive would be from the SBIR, mainly from the SBIR award, and in the second year we will receive a little bit funding from the Angel. But hopefully after the second year we will start to sell our product, the first minimum viable product. So far what we have is the cost of the product, as I mentioned, is similar to the other metallic anti-corrosion coatings. But it's a highly value-added product, so the actual price depends on the market. So I guess we need to work with our partner and do assessment of the actual end market to come up with a good price for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of questions. This is very interesting. I think it's got some potential. I know there's a bridge in New Jersey that they probably could use some assistance right away. And which, at least to my question, is that there's an opportunity here for you to gain some market share from infrastructure type of financing. We're talking about bridges falling down all over the country. There's an opportunity for that. I don't know if you wanted to address that issue. If you thought about that as well. The second point is getting back to the manufacturing scale. I know you're doing all this stuff in the lab. You probably haven't put this to the beta test site for scale-up. Have you done that for any kind of scale-up work at all?
Actually, the scale-up is that what kind of application are you looking into? We already made that partnership with large industrial companies, which they already have all facilities for scale-up. And if they do scale-up, they can code big surfaces. So we're going to use those facilities at the moment.
So yes, I understand that you have that the facilities that are manufacturing the previous or the currently marketed products, their manufacturing procedures or equipment they already have in place. But you said something about tweaking the process or something like that. Is that tweaking process going to create some issues in terms of the cost of the manufacturing? In
theory, no, because the parameters, we just change the parameters that they already have in the manufacturing process. Like we change the range of the parameters to get to the optimum stage. That we don't require to add any other thing in the manufacturing process. So because of that, we don't think it will add. The way that we approach these partners is that you can just use your current manufacturing facility and make a second product, get more out of that. So no, I don't think it will include.
Well, you realize, of course, whenever you scale something up, and you change the parameters, you have to take into consideration the engineering aspects of those changes, and that could create some issues in terms of how this thing turns out on a scale-up basis.
Yeah.
Going from lab to scale, I have all kinds of engineering issues that crop up.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a very good point. Actually, currently, as I explained, we are in the evaluation process of this technology in cooperation with the partner. And a part of that would be investigating these kind of questions. But by the end of the in 6 months, we are expected to finish this part. So the way that we work in this phase is that we send some of the samples to the partner. They do this kind of test or any other test that is required, and then we work together.
And another explanation is that in principle we could do some calculations to make sure that we will work in the feasible ranges, something that can be done. But in practice, they have to do it for us to see how possible it is. Besides that, there are several applications. For example, for catalysis and other applications, you don't need that. The amount you need for some application, you don't need that facilities from them.
So I've got a mundane question and a core strategic question. So the mundane question is, so you say the coating manufacturer is very similar to existing coating manufacturing. So what about the application of the coating on the metal? Does it use the same spraying process or painting process or electrolysis process?
Yeah,
is it the same?
plating process. Yeah, the same.
Electroplating?
Okay.
The plating process is the usual process for making coating, the metallic coating.
Got it. So the actual material, the lotus flower structure of your super hydrophobic coating forms on its own.
Right.
Got it. So the key strategic question. So you say you are working with a corporate partner. How did you protect this to where they just can't steal it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, what we do, we follow. First of all, we follow several ways. We don't just we don't just base our company on partnership with other companies, because I think there is a huge risk involved. We want to write SBIR and also we want to make even a small in-house manufacturing facility, probably for the catalysis application or even for the anti-corrosion coating. So 3 pathways. So the second thing is that we don't want to license the whole technology to the partner, just a very small part of the technology. So I want to explain the breadth of this technology a little bit, so you will understand that. We can change the material of the coating, the material of the substrate, the application. So all these would be different field of use. So we don't license all the technology to the partner, just very small part.
For the current partner, we signed confidentiality agreement. We signed an MTA, material transfer, and also non-analysis. So if they want, they have to ask for it. This is what I have done so far for protection. And if we think about our future big plans, is try to license minimum to them and keep them and build upon it for future.
Yeah.
One question.
I guess maybe ask 2 questions or 2.
Sure, right.
I guess to go along what you're asking, is this a discovery? Is this a material recipe or is it a coding process patent? I mean, the question is, what is it? Because if it's the same factory, the same everything, are you patenting voltage levels?
Yeah, sure. We patent both of them, both the material and the process. So in our patent, we claim both novel material and novel process.
And what's the average useful life of the anti-corrosion coating relative to the current industry standard?
I think the life is similar to the current to the existing coating material, but the non-wetting property might not be as lasting as the actual life of the coating. So you may have a non-wetting property for a part of the life of the material, but after that you may lose the non-wetting property, but still you can use the superior. It would be similar to the existing non-wetting coatings.
Thank you very much.
Let me add this to the answer here. In principle, again, non-wetting tell us that we would have superior lifetime, but in practice, we didn't test it.
That is the end of the 4 presentations on the Tech Transfer Challenge. We decided a few weeks ago that it would be nice to have a short session, although you could spend the entire day on it, talking about funding in the region for new ventures. And 4 people graciously admitted or committed to providing some response to that. And we're going to start with Jason Gabriel of Third Security, talking in general and also talking about the Valley Ventures Fund. And we don't need anything beyond the slides, right?
Yeah, sorry, no slides for me. I'll just talk. So I'm Jason Gabriel. I'm a managing director at Third Security. Third Security is a local venture capital firm that is national in scale. Third Security is one of the most prolific life sciences investors in the country. We're a national biotech and life sciences focused firm. So Dick asked me to talk about 2 things, sort of general early stage funding and about our regionally focused fund called the Valley's Ventures Fund, which has recently made its first 2 investments. So let's talk about general investing first. So let's say you're a student or a company that just presented to us and you're looking for funding. What do? You do something somewhat similar to what everyone has seen today. You need a business plan, and you need a business plan, and you need a company around it, right? Then you can present potential funding sources. There are many funding sources for early stage companies. The last presenter mentioned angel funds. So the way I think about the stages of funding for companies is typically when an inventor or a group of folks come together with an initial idea. They need a proof of concept. Once you have your proof of concept, you can go and look for what we call angel funds, which are funds that are invested by wealthy individuals, generally, not typically companies. And I would say the range of angel funding in the general industry is anywhere from $10,000 to $2 million, depending on what the opportunity is and where it is. Certainly in Silicon Valley, there are lots and lots of these people. They actually have networks and confederations that do this for the IT space. But angel funding happens everywhere. There are a number of established angel investors here in the Blacksburg-Roanoke area. There's a large number in Charlottesville. Frankly, I've seen them all over the state, and they're all over the country. And oftentimes you'll find that these folks have a more industry-backed interest in the opportunities. So if someone has been successful in the IT space, they would probably be more predisposed to invest in IT opportunities and take that to every logical conclusion. Angel investing is often the easiest way for a early stage company to get funding quickly because the discipline that angels use is typically a lot lower than what you will find with a traditional venture capital firm. Often, you pitch the right person and you say, hey, here's my company, here's my great idea. They might write you a check right then. So that's that process. It really is as straightforward as networking around to find individuals who are looking to make private investments and then pitching yourself over and over and over again until you find success in raising money. Now, once you've moved from the stage to where you don't need small amounts of money, less than $1 million in my world. You can then consider raising money from more traditional venture capital firms. Traditional venture capital firms invest, I would say, typically between $1 and $10 million initially. And we have a locally based fund that does exactly that, although the maximum investment it would make is $3 million in any one opportunity. It's called the Valleys Ventures Fund. It is the second fund of its kind that Third Security has managed, where the main limited partners of the fund are Third Security Internal Investment, the Virginia Tech Foundation, and the Carillion Research Institute. Valleys Ventures is a $15 million fund that looks to make investments in the New River Valley, Roanoke Valley, and the surrounding area. The goal of that is for us to find investments that we find are interesting and will make money. It is not for economic development. It is, what I would call just a pure venture capital firm, but is geographically focused. So, let's say you want between $1 and $3 million. How would you pitch us on the opportunity? So you would contact us. Again, I don't have slides, so I'm sorry. My email address is the easiest way to do that. My name is Jason, Jason, Gabriel, Gabriel, at thirdsecurity.com. And frankly, if you go to thirdsecurity.com, you would find that same email address. And we would have a discussion about your company. And what do we want to see? We want to see an actual business. And when I say an actual business, I have seen a number of companies that were essentially inventors with inventions that say they have an opportunity. That's not a company. A company is either, from the scientific stage, our typical life science investments is a scientific proof of concept in something that needs funding to advance the stage of the product. From a more traditional company stand, it would be an existing company that needs growth equity in order to grow faster. So I'll give you overviews of our first two investments, and you'll understand that they fall in the latter stage. So while Third Security is a biotech and life sciences oriented fund, Valleys Ventures is industry agnostic. In fact, our first two investments have been made in the IT space. One was in Heyo, run by Nathan Lotka, who I think many of you have either heard of or know. We invested $2 million in Heyo. Heyo is we think, game-changing platform for small and medium businesses to advertise on Facebook. So it's essentially an IT advertising platform that makes it easier for companies to get out there and to get at their customers. And Nathan's business plan is to grow his business and to add new advertising services. And his pitch to us was, give me this money and I can do this faster. And we agreed, and we're very excited about it. Our second investment was with a gentleman named Bob Summers, who again I think many of you know, who is here in Blacksburg, for FitNet, which is an iPhone app or an iTunes app for online fitness. But we've had success in the past, both in the previous version of this fund. We had a very successful exit of a company called Synchrony, which was based in Salem. Victor Iannello, it was a magnetic bearings company that, when we found them, they were essentially an SBIR research shop. We made an investment, and we made an initial investment which turned into tens of millions of dollars invested into his company that ultimately commercialized multiple products and was sold to a large industrial company, Dresser Rand. And to give you the flavor of the products that they make, Dresser Rand is very interested because Synchrony both has magnetic bearings for very large industrial air conditioning applications, but also for potential drivetrains on next-gen submarines. So when we found them, they had magnetic bearings that were this size, and they made them to be incredibly large. Also, our other successful investment out of the previous fund, which started as a $500,000 initial investment, was a company called Genomatics, which was based in Roanoke, which $400 million of investment later is called Intrexon and is a publicly traded company, which is our largest investment. So, the lesson for both of those is small investments can become big companies. So that's it.
We need to go through some mechanics here and get this thing hooked up again.
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize I was next.
Okay. Next up is Jennifer Daniel from CIT, and she'll explain all that.
All right. So something I didn't include in my slides, which I think I'll talk about just because PNP Coding was a recipient of it. So we also help companies go after SBIR and STTR awards. And we do that in two ways. We have a bunch of workshops, but we also do letters of support for companies that we think are going to go beyond sort of just being an SBIR shop. And we also make, as she mentioned, a CIT award, which is really just, I don't even know the amount, what is it, a couple $1,000s? Yeah, just to help them get through the proposal process. We do a lot of that. But, really what I focus on is funding companies. And we do that through our CIT Gap Fund. We're about a $25 million fund. We leverage, really is world-class due diligence. We play in sort of that angel capital space, but our diligence really looks like a Series A investor, and we find that Series A investors typically just take our diligence and run with it. We are a feeder into Valley Ventures. We were the first money into Heyo and FitNet, both of which Valley picked up. We are a little bit economic development in that we do care about how many jobs are created in Virginia. We invest only in Virginia companies. We have about, I think about 110 portfolio companies now, 10 exits. For every $1 we invest, we typically find another $15 to invest in a company as well from a VC or an angel. We have about $200 million of private money that's gone into the companies. We're probably the most active VC in the United States, definitely on the East Coast. When Entrepreneur Magazine was ranking VCs, which they've stopped, there's not enough of us anymore. We were always in their top ranks there. We're really looking for great entrepreneurs, creating great companies, cool innovation, big markets. We typically do convertible debt. For those of you who don't know what convertible debt is, it's a new equity instrument, which basically says that we're not going to put a valuation on your company, so we're a little bit more entrepreneurial friendly. And so we take the $200,000 we invest, and when you raise your Series A from Valley Ventures or Core or Growth Tech, whoever it is, if you sell them a share for $1, we're going to buy it for 75 cents up until original investment amount, and potentially put more money in as well. So, as I said, we've been doing this for about 110-ish investments, almost 10 years. We started at Gap Fund 1. We have a Gap Tech Fund where we invest up to $200,000. What's not on the slide is we also have an innovation fund, typically geared towards technology spinning out of universities. We'll put $50K into a company. It doesn't go through our investment process. It just comes to our team. and we'll write a check for $50K in hopes that we can work with you. Maybe we find another person to join your management team or help you develop your technology a little bit more so you can get ready for a Gap Tech Fund, so you can really get ready to attract angel investors and attract your first $1 million into your company. Also not on this slide is our cybersecurity accelerator. It's the only one in the nation focused on cybersecurity. We invite companies that are just formed to come out to CIT in Northern Virginia for 3 months to work with our cybersecurity accelerator team, as well as our STARS network, which really is sort of the who's who in cybersecurity that come through and work with these companies. And then we help them raise their next round of funding. We're in our second class right now. Our first class was small, it was 4 companies. 2 of those companies we took into the Gap Fund after that. It's got an international presence. Last class we had companies from Germany. This one, I think everyone's in the United States, but most of the companies are from California that have infiltrated Virginia. So someone talked about investment stage. I hate this chart, but I thought I'd put it in because I think it sort of gives a good idea really about where it is you raise capital. We really look at companies that are anywhere from pre-revenue to $5 or $10 million in revenue. It really just depends about the team, about the market size. Sort of our proof of concept funding, we do have some in-house at CIT. It's called the CRCF. We administer it for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Basically, it's a grant program that Virginia puts out. It's got 2 solicitations per year. Awards are anywhere between $25K and $500,000. It's a grant. So as long as you are with the company, I think for 3 years, don't quote me on that, the money doesn't have to be paid back. Everything's fine. We are in the middle of an award right now, but I highly recommend that if you're building a company that's less than 2 years old, that you look into it. It's free money from the state to help you grow your business. Like everybody else, we're looking for a great management team. Our investment stage is really a seed to early. Again, pre-revenue to up to $10 million in revenue. We typically invest up to $200,000 by ourselves or part of $1 million rounds. We don't like to go much beyond that. We have a Virginia focus and really anything technology or life science. Investment process is not super interesting. Only that I'll mention that we take it through an investment committee made up of VCs and cash entrepreneurs across the East Coast. So we usually have a pretty good idea of how you're going to get your next round of funding from where you are today. So we're able to make a lot of really great introductions to your next round of capital and potentially to customers. Our team, I graduated from Tech in 2002 and covered this region as well as Northern Virginia for the funds. A lot of us have been VCs in prior lives, have run tech startups before, some consultants in the group, but for the most part we've all operated companies. Our investment board, again, made up of some really great cash entrepreneurs and VCs across the United States. And that's really all I have for you. Investments in town, Mysore, Heyo, Connect Half is actually FitNet, Power Fingerprinting, VidRunner, MBE, and some others that I didn't put. Any questions about what we do or seed or early stage funding in general?
Jen is certainly available to anyone to sit down and talk about your opportunity.
Yeah, I'm here about a week a month in the Blacksburg-Roanoke area and happy to meet with anyone who's working on anything. Certainly we've helped companies spin technology at universities. We'd like to give Geckler a hard time and tell him his deal is bad. But yeah, kind of information.
Thank you very much. Next up is Ava Doss, who will talk about the Launch Place Seed Fund. Whoops. It certainly is. That was bad.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and congratulations on the presentations. It was very, very educational and very informative. And I'm going to be talking to all of you after this presentation because we would like to recruit as many Virginia Tech companies to be part of our portfolio as possible. Well, my name is Eva Das. I am representing the Launch Place together with Varun Sadana, the Deputy Director, is here with me as well. And Ken Ferris, who is the chair of the Launch Place Seed Fund Advisory Board. Believe it or not, we are from Danville, Virginia. The company is located in Danville, Virginia. Neither me nor Varun are from Danville, Virginia. We live in North Carolina, has the accent. So if you need to stop, then at any given time to stop me, because obviously Northern North Carolina accent is different than Virginia. So why are we here? The mission of the Launch Place is really to transform the economic landscape in Southside region, but mainly in Danville, Virginia, Pittsylvania County, and Caswell County. We are not an economic development organization. We are a lead entity in entrepreneurship creation, or try to become one in Southern Virginia. But our mission is really to recruit, develop, and retain young, smart entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, to stay, grow, and sell their companies within our footprint. Just to give you a very brief history, and I know everybody's really hungry, so I'm going to go through this part rather quickly. But the Launch Place formerly is really known as the Southside Business Technology Center, and it was created in 2004 by industry leaders from Martinsville, Virginia, and Danville area, who have had a very specific interest in receiving tangible business consulting services. Those services were not available in our region back then, and the group of private business owners, bankers, chamber presidents, who happened to be also Virginia Tech graduates, came together and said, we want what Virginia Tech has. And what Virginia Tech had was the Virginia Tech Business Technology Center. So we used the VTBTC model and tried to copy it and move it to Danville, Virginia. That didn't work out that well, given the fact that we don't sit on a university campus. So we have worked very closely with Virginia Tech, VTC, and now continue to do so with VT KnowledgeWorks. But our model has shifted from the very beginning. Rather than just using students, although we do have student interns, we have hired full-time business consulting professionals, and that's how we have built the organization during the last 8 years. The Virginia Tech connection has been extremely helpful to us, and as I said, we continue to maintain that relationship. I forgot to mention one of our key board members who actually approves my salary is also here, Dr. John Bravo. Does sit on the board of directors of the Launch Place, so forgive me for not introducing you, but you are here. And so are other board members from the region, southern region, industry leaders, owners of different companies, chamber members, individuals from the entire region, our board members who really are trying to make sure that the organization, as it grows and goes through this transitional process that I will be talking about pretty soon, that the organization really maintains its high-quality business consultancy services, while we are also adding additional services to our portfolio companies. During the last 8 years, until 6 years, until 2011, we have been really focused on business consultancy, and most of our clients, I would say 70% of our business consulting clients were existing companies. And most of our business consulting related to market research and development. Yes, the North Carolina accent helps in Germany, and when companies want to go and establish branches in Europe, we could help them, but also given the international flavor of our employees, we can help companies branch out to Asia, India, Europe, Russia, you name it, and that's a pretty big asset to have when you are located in Danville and Martinsville and you don't necessarily have a university backing. Having said that, throughout the consultancy period, we also had come across with quite a few startups, and after the recession, even more startups, and started writing business plans. But we have realized pretty soon that it's nice and dandy to write fancy business plans and that shines and really projects with gazooka $1 billion in revenues. The reality is that if you don't have local support and if you don't have local angels, you end up sending these potential startups where the money is, and most likely they will locate where the money is. So throughout the 8 years of the SBTC's development, we have had couple tries to put together an angel group. That did not happen. Timing was perfect. I started in September 2008 asking people to give us money to invest in companies. Perfect. Didn't work out that way. However, 2 years ago, thanks to the study done by Jim Flowers, KnowledgeWorks director, and Dr. Dick Dougherty, they put together a study for the Denver Regional Foundation to map out what is in our region when it comes to entrepreneurship development. What are the services, what are the needs, what is the demand? And out of that study came a recommendation to look at the SBTC as a potential platform to really develop a new organization, expand the consulting services, add additional services to it, and rather than having an angel fund and an incubator and accelerator and everything separated out, let's make the launch place something bigger that actually can create an impact. That bigger now is known the launch place. We expanded our consulting services into actual entrepreneurship, retention, recruitment, and development. Yes, we do go out and talk to companies and are judges in business plan competitions and go to the ACA conference and try to generate as much deal flow as possible, both for our consulting and also for our seed fund. Have established a seed fund, a $4.5 million seed fund, which I will be talking about how many investments we have made, with the possibility of obviously raising an additional fund for Series A, and we are in the planning stages of potentially launching the second raise, providing still the business consulting services. Those are free of charge to all of our investment companies who get approved on the seed fund side, but we also have a business consultancy that still continues to provide consulting services to established companies, or even new startups who don't necessarily need seed funding or equity financing, or they are not at that stage, they can use our services. We have partnered again with KnowledgeWorks. KnowledgeWorks together with us is providing our business mentoring training and coaching, but we are also continuously recruiting additional mentors from the region and internationally nationally as well. And the other thing that we also have as part of our expansion is additional subsidies. We want people to come to Danville and live there and establish their offices there. So we are providing, in addition to the funding, the mentoring, the business consultancy that is part of the package, we are also providing subsidies, both residential and housing subsidies, for our new companies to come and locate to the River District in Danville. The seed fund. As I said, Varun is here, my deputy director, Kemfer is the chair of the seed fund board, is here. We can get into exact details as to how we structure our deals, but just very briefly, the focus is on IT software, biomaterials, little bit of green, healthcare products, and advanced manufacturing. You can fill out an application on our website, don't worry, it's a one-pager, it's not 12 pages, it's just a one-pager, and attach your executive summary, and if you have a business plan, and we will be in touch with you. And then we, after the review of the business plan or the executive summary, we really start talking to you. The organization has the capacity of going very deep and for a very long time, meaning very long, 2 months, and it can be torturous because we do a lot of due diligence. We just attended the the Angel Capital Association conference in DC a couple weeks ago, where all the angels grouped together, and we learned a lot from them how to structure deals. unless you really have a very strong deal flow, everybody, whether you're an angel or a seed investor, you do due diligence in America. If you're in Silicon Valley or New York City or Boston and you get 300-400 applications a week, maybe you don't have to do that. But in small funds like ours, we definitely spend a lot of time, especially during the deep dive stages. We try to close the deals within a 90-day period. Sometimes it can extend a little bit, especially when we get down to the term sheet negotiation. But once we make a decision to invest, that definitely happens in 90 days. But then we have to negotiate with the client the term sheets and the purchase agreement and investor rights agreement, and depending on how difficult you all are, that can be a week to 6 weeks. So far, we have invested in since January, we have invested in 3 companies. Since January 2014, actually the third one was just announced yesterday. All 3 were capped out at 250. All 3 are convertible debt. But we do valuations of the companies, pre-money and post-money valuation, even if it's convertible debt. We want to know what we are getting ourselves into, and it also helps the companies to raise more inside the fundraising. The board of the seed fund advisory board, which actually makes the ultimate investment decision, consists of venture experts, angel experts. CIT is one of our members. Then we have other angels represented on our seed fund advisory board from the Research Triangle Park. Us being so close to RTP 50-minute drive, we have been able to develop really, really good partnerships, both with incubators, accelerators, but also with a lot of angels and investors in that area, and also in Northern Virginia. And we are establishing those relationships as we are growing. We really are committed to help the company close the cycle. So in the last 3 investments that we have made, in 2 we were syndicating. We might have not been the lead, but we were the largest chunk coming in at 250. But we were able to syndicate with others in the region, and we were part of $1 million to $1.5 million raise. By the way, the average, last year's average, based on the HALO report, I would strongly recommend, if you are considering going after angel funding, to look at ACA's website. The HALO report gives you a really good understanding of the industry. Last year, the average investment made by angels is anywhere from 150 up to 2.4. So the angels are moving into bigger monies. It used to be 10, 20 sometimes, depending on the fund. Now they are definitely investing in larger companies, but also more money goes into Series A than it used to be before. We are open to term negotiations, more flexible, I would say, than private investors, although we love them dearly, and I don't want to be critical. But our purpose in life is really economic development, transforming the region by recruiting companies and establishing new entrepreneurial companies in our region. Therefore, when we are negotiating the terms and ROIs, I would say we are much more flexible and more forgiving, if you wish, in terms of our ROI requirements. We don't give away free money. We're still going to take equity position in your company, and we still want back 2x to 4x, but you do have to locate a portion of your company to Danville, and you have to commit to Danville for 3 years, and you have to create at least 5 jobs, averaging over $50,000 a year, in order for you to be even eligible for seed fund application. So far, as I said, have invested in 3 companies. We are on Gust and going around the East Coast to try to recruit companies, work a lot with universities, Virginia Tech, NC State, Duke, try to encourage the entrepreneurship development, and we really are organizing extracurricular activities. We had an Idea Fest on February 28th, when I think 36 applications came in from the East Coast, and companies came and presented their ideas, and that actually fed into our business plan competition. That has been already announced, and the application deadline was end of March, but we will be having something similar to this on May 22nd at the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research in Danville, with the prize money being up to $30,000. We have received 31 applications from Virginia and North Carolina, very strong applications, and we are looking forward to that. Once the companies, as I said, have been approved for investment, all of our consultancy services are free of charge. We also have a space where we lend our companies for the first 6 to 8 months until they find a permanent location in Danville. So, and that's free of charge. You just pay utilities $250 a month. And all of our training and additional services are completely free of charge once you are an investment company. You do not need to be part of our investment portfolio to still be eligible for subsidies and consultancy and mentoring and training. The fee structure is going to be different, however. So I'm not going to bore you anymore. And Dick is telling me that everybody's hungry, so I'm going to stop here. But we will be staying around in the afternoon and during lunchtime. So if you would like to hear more about the lunch place, we are here, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Should I mention who won Idea Fest?
Yep.
Is he in the back of the room? Carlisle won.
You want to eat?
Yes.
Too bad. In your packet, you have a flyer like this. Last fall, we started yet one more contest. Actually, it's not really a contest. It's a qualifying event. Game Changers Challenge is aimed at creating more little companies that look a lot like the companies that are already in the Corporate Research Center. It's funded by Corporate Research Center money. The objective is clear: tightly niched industrial and commercial innovation, not consumer. So we're encouraging small companies to solve important problems that do not interest certain kinds of investors. Last fall, the company that received a $25,000 loan helps trucking companies minimize the number of empty backhauls of containers to and from the Port of Virginia. That sort of thing. It could be that a winner might make magnetic bearings that go inside other stuff, for example. Please think about and encourage your friends to think about this. We're going to do it probably twice a year. And if we don't get a good application, we won't make a loan. It's not a contest. It's a qualifying event. But we're looking forward to doing this on a continuing basis and putting some people to work at commercializing things that will, again, make more little companies that look like the 150 companies that are already in the Corporate Research Center, averaging about 10 or 15 employees. And every once in a while, one of them goes bluey, like in Trexon, or Tech Labs, or VTLS. And, that's a wonderful thing when it happens. So pass this along, please. As you go out the door, please give Christine Spalding your lunch ticket, because we don't want to pay the inn for any more lunches than we buy. And don't forget, I mentioned earlier, in the back of your badge packet, you have a raffle ticket. You can win a Kindle Fire. We'll be back here at what time, Dick?
1:30.
How much is a Kindle Fire?
How much is a Kindle Fire? About $1.89. It's not.
Can we sell the ticket?
Tommy wants to sell you his ticket.
There is a container outside.
Yes.
Next year, the raffle will be for a Tesla coil. It's a new model, the Tesla coil. Enjoy your lunch back here at 1:30.
Judges?
That's great.
Let me tell you quickly what we do here, and I will send you.
Hold on 1 second.
Now, before you go to lunch.
Check and make sure everybody's good on numbers.
you want to know about this also, where this is, and adjusting the
Up here on.
I've got to go back.
Oh, okay, but how long?
I'll talk to you.
So I will call you or you will call me, but
Yeah, because we're going to spin off to these various companies and in various locations. And we're in too many different areas.
Okay.
And we're in cremation.